Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I was reading this article last night talking about the trade deficit, the widening trade deficit that the United States is going through, and it really got me thinking about some stuff. And I thought I'd share this idea with you because there's a lot of stuff taking place right now, both like crazy things happening inside of the labor market and this widening trade deficit. At the same time, we have this de-dollarization and the Federal Reserve promising to keep interest rates low. And if you add all this stuff together, it really starts painting a crazy picture for deflation. And I know a lot of people are just probably rolling their eyes when I say that, because I have talked so much about this kind of stuff and I should just probably let it go. But I tell you, when these things are on my mind, I can't. I have to put it out here. So now let's think about this for just a second. We have a widening trade deficit with the rest of the world. During the Trump administration, the trade wars, there was this promise to shrink the trade deficit with China. That happened, but it shifted from China to the rest of the world. So we're still importing a lot of stuff. And when you import more than you export, those are dollars leaving the country. So now I think about the de-dollarization, like you're hearing from like Russia, where they don't want to deal with the dollar anymore, no more imports or exports using dollars. Well, if the imports are coming into the country and those dollars are leaving the country, those people have to go somewhere with those dollars. I mean, they got dollars in their hands now. They just sold a bunch of stuff to the United States. Now, typically, they would want to go back into the United States and buy the bonds, but they're worried about inflation, and the yields on the bonds are too low for them. So now they have to go somewhere with that money. And if they're not going to buy the U.S. bonds, well, then they have to buy the debt of some other foreign nation. They don't have to, but, holding on to cash is a no-no, so you got to go somewhere with it. So they buy the debt of another foreign nation. Well, now that foreign nation has the dollars. What do they do with it? Well, that gets me thinking about the euro dollar. Nations and corporations all around the world have wrote debts in dollars. They have borrowed money using dollars. They get the best interest rate if they do it in US dollars, which means at some point they need to pay them back in US dollars. And there's far more debt than there is dollars in circulation. So now I think about it. This foreign nation had just sold their products to the United States, received cash, bought the debt of some other foreign nation, right? Because they don't want to hold on to cash. Now they have the cash. This cash has to go somewhere now. And if you're not going to invest it back in the United States because you're worried about inflation, well, then you're probably just going to pay off your debts. So now I thought about that. If they start paying off the debts, well, that's deflation. See, de-dollarization really means deflation, right? Because unless you plan on investing back into the United States by buying their bonds or buying overinflated real estate or overinflated stocks, then you're going to have to pay off your debts. There's no better return on your capital than to pay off a debt. Now, let's say they don't. Let's say they do invest back into the United States. Well, let's say they buy a bunch of bonds and buy a bunch of stocks and buy a bunch of real estate. Well, then the United States happens to have interest rates rise, crashing all these systems. The bonds go down, the real estate goes down, the stock market goes down because the interest rates rise. And all that foreign investment gets locked up here in the United States. See, I don't know what's going to happen here coming into the future. But I think about it. I think a lot about this stuff. And I try not to just take in just the one side. I try to step onto the other side and look at it from the other direction. It's one of the reasons why I run against the grain. It's because if you have everybody believing the same thing, then you're I mean, what's the point of even thinking? See, the whole point is to step out of it, try and take it in from another perspective. Try to run against the grain and see if you can see it from a different direction. See if you can shed a different light on it. Everybody's under this impression that there is going to be inflation. This idea that there is going to be inflation could very well in itself cause deflation, as people begin to behave in a way that protects them from inflation. But think about this for a second. Have you seen gold go up? Have you seen the actual labor go up yet? It seems that a lot of people don't want to work. When you have McDonald's offering $15 an hour, when you have sign-on bonuses at fast food restaurants, when you have a truck driving position paying $14,000 a week, these are things that are completely unheard of. When the good factory jobs aren't that good. See, we're coming into a situation that nobody quite knows how to behave in because nobody has ever experienced stuff like this. Everybody always anticipates that there's going to be money, like the money printing will always cause inflation. People argue about how, I love this one, something used to cost this back in the day and now it costs this. You can see the inflation taking place. You know, I work at a retail store. I see this stuff on a regular basis. And now I'm going to show something to you guys. I have it at work. I forgot to get it. Maybe I'll get it tomorrow or something. But it's a flyer from 1988, a sales flyer for Christmas. In that sales flyer, there is all kinds of items that we still sell today. Some of them have really moved. Like, it's incredible. Like, there was an extension cord in there, like a 25-foot, like 16 gauge extension cord, very light duty. And it was like, I don't know, I want to say it was like $4. That thing would be like $30 today. However, a milk house heater. Now, you guys know what a milk house heater is. It's like, you saw them in, like, growing up in the garage. It's that little tiny metal utility heater. I mean, it's the best way to describe it is like utility heater for the garage. That ad had those things at $24.99. Today, we sell those things $24.99. There has never been a time in history that I have ever seen where those things have ever sold for anything other than $24.99. The availability of them, I checked the warehouse for them, 150 of them. There is absolutely no problems getting these heaters. Plenty of supply, not a lot of technology into them, same price. The material that goes into it changes. There's copper and all kinds of metal, whatever, But there's nothing to it. They've made a pretty basic design that doesn't change. There's no technology advancements to it. It just is what it is. $24.99. And I'm guessing next year it'll be $24.99. So when you look at it like this, when you look at things from, not just from the view that you want to see it in, but just from all views, try to take it in from, look at it from the deflationary scenario. I see it from the inflation. I used to scream inflation all the time. When I saw the Federal Reserve had $850 billion on their balance sheet when I first started watching them. And now I don't even know how much they have on it, 7 trillion or some stupid thing. I don't even know how much is on their balance sheet. I don't even look anymore because it doesn't matter. It doesn't create inflation. It hasn't in 12 years. I don't know why anybody would anticipate it would now. What the Federal Reserve does is they create reserves that get locked up in the bank, and unless those banks are loaning that out, it's not going to come into the system. And then if it's loaned into the system, it's due back. It's due back to whoever it is that lent with principal and interest. So unless you're taking that money, borrowing it to create money, like it goes into a system or a business or something that turns a profit so that you can pay back principal and interest and continue to create a profit, then it's going to have a deflationary scenario. And almost all loaning goes into consumers, buying houses and cars and vacations. But hardly any of that money goes into a business or into something that's going to generate a profit. Most of it is consumer debt. And that's going to be a problem. So I think about all this labor, all these people, all this good paying jobs working at McDonald's, and what they're going to do with that. And they're going to buy a lot of stuff, and they're going to create more imports coming into the country as they demand more cheap foreign products, sending ever more increasing amounts of dollars going out of the United States. And as the people who acquire these dollars outside of the United States don't want to be in the United States because they're worried about inflation and the fact that the interest rates are too low, they're going to start paying off their own debts or paying off the debts that they owe that are due in US dollars, since they have nothing else to do with those dollars. That in itself will destroy or at least diminish the amount of available dollars out there. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about this morning. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.